Hey there, welcome back to Woodbeard Meets Makers. I'm your host Christian, and this is episode 2 of season 2, and this is a good one, folks. Honestly, this is a really good one. I'm excited for you to hear this. But before jumping in, I just want to take a quick second and thank y'all for listening to the previous episodes. I'm very happy to be back for season 2, and it means a lot to hear your feedback, both good and otherwise. Keep it coming as I try to make this podcast something worth listening to. So I just want to say a quick thank you. I appreciate you all. And also, if you're a maker and would like to be part of the show, please drop into my DMs or slide into my DMs. How do the kids say it? I don't know. Doesn't matter. On Instagram, I am at IamWoodbeard, or shoot me an email at podcast@woodbeard.ca. I promise at the very least you'll have an okay time. So, come on. Who would turn that down? Anyways, I'm going to jump right into this episode. If you're from Hamilton, Ontario, or the surrounding area, or even much wider, chances are you know today's guest. You've likely even been to an event that she's running, promoting, or providing the soundtrack to, or there as a supporter. I'm talking about the one and only Julie Fazooli. Pause for applause. Okay, good. As a freelance, multi-dimensional creative with roots in Hamilton, Julie's artistic vision spans across so many disciplines that legit I struggle to find an artistic discipline that she has not yet tackled and excelled at. From media producer, production and event coordinator, art director, graphic designer, audio and camera operator, visual artist, DJ, photographer, and sharing her expertise with others as a workshop instructor, teaching various subjects such as the history and techniques involved in both graffiti art and DJing. Like, come on, Julie rules. In this episode, we not only dive into her extensive body of work, but also chat about the twists and turns of her personal and professional journey. We packed a ton into this conversation, and the time just flew by. I don't think I even got halfway through my planned questions, but if anything, I'm taking that as a sign that the conversation was flowing naturally, and I'm just going to have her back someday soon for a part 2. Her journey to where she is today is fascinating, genuinely, and it was so rad meeting her and getting to know more. So I'm just going to shut up and get this started. Here is my chat with Julie Fazooli. I just discovered this actually earlier today, and it's cheesy as hell, and this is how I'm going to start it. Ladies and gentlemen, Julie Fazooli.
It's me.
There's sound effects in here. I also didn't know if that would play on your end, so that would have been really weird if I was like, ladies and gentlemen. Just dead air on your end.
Oh my God.
But yeah, that's fun.
Sweet.
So to kick it off, I like to gauge people's comfort levels on a scale of 1 to 10. How comfortable are you talking about yourself like this?
I mean, I've had to do it before. It's funny because like I spend so much time talking about other people and kind of promoting other people and their creations and their works and stuff like that, especially with the punk rock Flea, that it's when it comes time to talk about myself, I'm like, where do I start? Because I do so many things.
Yeah.
That it's overwhelming.
That.
Yeah. Even when somebody asks me like what I do for a living, I'm like, so how much time do you have? Like the 15-second elevator pitch is that I'm a multidisciplinary creative for hire across the board.
Yeah.
But I've been working in arts and entertainment for almost 30 years. And so that has kind of allowed me to jump from thing to thing based on what skills I have for whatever productions and situations that pop up. So it's kind of good because it keeps me interested. I don't do the same thing every day anymore, which is a godsend.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't built for that. I learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
Through much trial and error.
Yeah. Wow. I like to start with just some getting to know you questions too.
Okay.
Just general knowledge.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite color?
You know what? I kind of flounder. Black and white are not colors, but I tend to actually gravitate towards black and white as defaults. But I also love a really bright, deep red or like a vibrant electric blue.
Nice.
Those colors like just really get me, I think. Yeah.
Nice. So like
Yeah.
Spider-Man colors.
Yes. Totally. Or Superman. But Spider-Man's
Yeah, that
cooler.
too. That's true. I agree.
Yeah.
Could not agree more.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite food?
Tacos. Hands down.
Nice.
I mean, you could do them any kind of way. So if you're in a
That's
seafood
true.
mood, yeah, you know what I mean? If you're in a veggie mood, do that. If you want to eat beef, if you want to do one of every different kind of taco, because you can't decide. I mean,
Yeah.
I like to
Possibilities are endless.
Yeah, I like to mix it up. And I feel like sometimes when I'm prepping tacos, it's awesome because then you could do so many other things with all these prepped different parts of it. So it's like you could make nachos the next day, you can make a burrito the next day, you can make,
Yeah.
So
you can make a taco bowl.
Exactly. So yeah, you don't have to stick to one thing.
That's true.
Yeah.
Do you think a taco is a sandwich or is that its own thing? I've debated the hot dog as a sandwich thing many times.
Yes, I've been in those debates before.
Yeah.
Taco, I didn't even consider. I think, yeah, it could be construed as a sandwich. I think.
Oh.
Yeah, I would say it's a hand, like, so it holds food in a vessel that you can eat. So yeah, that could be a sandwich.
Okay.
Technically.
All right.
Ish. I think.
I feel like it's its own thing.
Really
I don't know.
is.
I don't know what the rules are for sandwich. If it has to be like
there
bread, toppings,
there are no
bread.
rules.
Right.
Yeah.
It can be anything. Yeah. I'm happy to let people who think a taco is a sandwich think a taco is a sandwich.
Yeah.
It's totally fine. Just get along.
I mean, it is what it is to you. You can decide.
Exactly. Do you have a favorite movie?
Yes. I've been working in TV and film for 30 years, and to this day, my favorite film of all time is The Big Lebowski.
Nice.
I think it's the perfect movie. As a writer, as a filmmaker, as a camera person, as an audio person, as a music like super fan. I think it encompasses everything. And I think the Coen brothers can do no wrong. I think they're geniuses. I think the only thing that would come in second would be like the Royal Tannenbaums, because I always mention like my family is like the Royal Tannenbaums. Like we're all really crazy personalities, and we can only be in the same room for about an hour before we drive each other nuts. But we're all very like intelligent people, but completely different. Like you don't understand how we're related. You know what I mean? And everybody's got these crazy lives that are completely in opposite directions, but for some reason we can come together for certain things where it counts, you know, and there's still like the love and the things that like keep us connected and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. Nice. We definitely don't live in an echo chamber in my family.
That's good.
We challenge each other a lot, which is good. Keeps us on our toes. Yeah.
Nice. I think you and my wife would get along. Those are her top 2 favorite films too.
Really? That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So
they're both
sweet.
Those movies that you could watch. You could go through once and just enjoy it. The next time you could go through paying attention to the cinematography.
100%.
The next time the audio and like the script, you know.
Find all these little Easter eggs and like hidden levels of like metaphor and it's just
like,
so.
It's like Severance. Have you watched that?
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, we watched it once, but I enjoyed that one too. Yeah.
Yeah. I usually like to ask your favorite like music genre or band as well. But like doing my research on you're obviously worked with a lot of music.
Yes.
I read that you were raised by audiophiles who like just introduced you to basically everything under the sun.
Literally everything. We don't fit. We're all floaters, so we don't fit in any one category. My parents were always kind of like all over the map with that. And I love all music. I'm not a big country fan, but outside of all of that, I'm not like a top 40 person either. But sorry, my emails are coming in. but I feel like, okay, so my favorite band since I was a kid that I can remember as far back, like when I first heard the very first Beastie Boys album,
Nice.
I think I was like 6 or 7 years old. My mom immediately signed me up for the fan club. I
Oh,
have been a diehard fan ever since. Like they're my, I, I love them so much.
yeah.
Same thing with Daft Punk. Like I feel like when they first came out, I'd already grown up working in record stores, and by the time I was about 17, 18, I started working for Much Music, and they came in for the first time in Canada. And it was really cool to have them in because I'm from Paris, France originally. My cousins grew
Yeah.
up in the same neighborhood, so they knew them. And
Wow.
when they came in, I was like, holy crap. Like, hey guys. And I just like spoke to them in French. This is my first language. And they were like, oh my God, we can understand you. All the Canadians here, we don't understand what they're saying to us. I'm like, yeah. Canadian French is a little different, but like I speak Parisian street slang. So they were like, holy crap. And they were like my best friends. It was they were just so sweet and so nice. And this was like before the masks, right? They were wearing those like plastic pig masks and stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, so it
That's
was really, really
amazing.
early. And yeah, I feel like I kind of followed them for their entire career since because of that,
Nice.
like that kind of connection and so and just the sound. I love like that housey electro kind of vibe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I grew up too, like in the hip hop scene, the punk scene, the metal scene, the rave scene. So I kind of have been all over that spectrum. And it's funny because I'll show up to a punk show dresses and like an Adidas tracksuit and a baseball cap, and nobody bats an eyelash at this point because it's like, well, they've seen me in every scene. It doesn't matter. I'll just show up however I show up that day. It was the same thing in high school. It's like something different every day. It's like one day you're a skater, one day you're a raver, one day
Yeah,
you're a
yeah.
goth, one day
Right?
you're like, yeah. So I feel like I don't know. It's funny. I can't pinpoint exactly what genre I'm 100% super into. I think it's like I could say like maybe 10 genres are my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Nice.
and it's funny because I'm not really into mainstream music. So a lot of my music knowledge is from the underground and like from club scene and like outside of mainstream radio. I feel like sometimes I spend more time listening to music historians and going back to the classics. And I just really revel in that music history and where genres spawn from. And yeah, I used to have a radio show at U of T that talked about that kind of stuff. I patterned it off of Alan Cross because he's one of my heroes.
I read
And
about that, yeah, and I was like,
yeah, he was the
I
best.
love
He
that
was the
guy.
best. Yeah, my mom
Yeah.
and I were addicted to his show. And so when I got to university, I was like, I want to do one of these shows. So I had 3 hours once a week and I just did a different genre every time. And it was really cool because nobody had like talked about like where drum and bass came from, or like, let's talk about where, techno actually came from,
Yeah.
or let's talk about where disco came from and stuff. So,
Nice.
and then I spent more time researching that stuff than working on my on my on my master's degree. So, but I had way more fun in the
Well,
radio
there you
station
go.
than I did in class. So, like, whatever. It panned out pretty good because I spent the rest of my life staying in music. So,
Nice.
I think I did well. I
I'd say
chose
so.
wisely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say it seems like people are usually kids are raised on their parents' music, and
Yes.
then at some point you start
So,
finding your own.
yeah.
For you, it sounds like maybe it was Beastie Boys at a pretty young age,
Yeah. Yeah. I
and
think
it's so cool that
my,
your parents were just like, sign her up for the fan club.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
really
Like,
cool.
I remember like one of my earliest favorites was Pink Floyd. My mom was always like a
Mhm.
big Floyd head and like a lot of the Beatles stuff, but I only really liked, like Abbey Road and Revolver. It was like I
Oh
would
yeah.
always gravitate towards those two albums type of thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's a real mishmash, but like jazz, classical, everything. Like my parents would listen to a lot of indigenous music from all over the world too. So
Oh,
a
cool.
lot of South American vibes, a lot of like North American Indigenous vibes, because my dad worked a lot with Indigenous peoples here in Canada for the government.
Oh,
So
wow.
we were really instilled with like a huge cross section of world music, I think,
Nice.
which was really cool. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite concert that you've been to?
Oh, that's a tough one. Uh, I could say maybe like a top five. The
Yeah,
last
yeah.
time LCD Sound System was in Toronto, I almost cried. I was just like so full of emotion because it was one of their reunion gigs,
Oh, yeah.
and it was just a magical night. And also, anytime Wax Taylor is in town, watching that guy do his turntablism, cut up records and stitch them together with like a live band in front of him is like insanely inspiring. He's also from Paris, France as well. He's just phenomenal live. Um, Uncle is a good one. James Lavelle, who produced the Beastie Boys
Mm.
with DJ Shadow. DJ Shadow is another one that's like one of my top guys. Um, Weirdly enough, like Ministry, I've seen like probably about 10 times. Huge Al Jorgensen fan. Anything White Zombie, stuff like that. Like those shows were always just so, just like killer. It was just like the vibe in the room, especially White Zombie, because it's just like such a theatrical performance.
Yeah.
Um, those were always really cool shows to see.
Nice.
I hate going to a show where it's just the band playing and it's like, well, why don't you give me like
Put on a show.
a like put a little
Ooh.
zhuzh in there, you know, like give me a little theatrical performance, like
Well, especially
early.
for what you're paying for ticket prices nowadays.
Well,
Like,
nowadays, yeah,
come
for
on.
sure. Jane's Addiction was also a good one back in the day.
Oh,
Like in the
yeah.
'90s, they put on a really great show. Perry Farrell was always so animated and
Yeah.
fun to watch. Like he's just amazing. Like just his vibe alone just fills the room. It's crazy. Yeah.
Nice. So
Yeah.
you mentioned you were born in Paris. Did you spend most of your childhood in Europe or?
So I moved back and forth quite a bit as a kid. My parents, every time like school ended, basically the next day we were on a plane and then we'd come back the day before school started again in September. So
Oh,
every
okay.
other year I spent at least 2.5 months on the road visiting each family member. My father's Italian, so he's from Tuscany. So we were able to travel all over like that side of Europe,
Yeah.
because they're all spread out like from Brittany to and like Belgium down to Tuscany, so and like Switzerland. We traveled quite a bit when we were kids. Like my
Yeah.
parents were very much world travelers. My dad was special ops for the military, so we like any chance we would get, we would go with him somewhere. So it's like, oh, we're going to New York City for a couple weeks. Like they would just
Wow.
pull us out of school. It's like, oh, we're going to Washington D.C. I had a great aunt and uncle down there because my great uncle worked for the UN.
Mm.
So we would go down there. They would just rip us out of school and then homeschool us on the road and just like go to museums. Like we would learn the whole time we were on the road. But
Yeah.
it I think I got a better education out of it because of my parents' worldliness. You know, they couldn't stay put, and
Right.
especially
Yeah.
being immigrants to Canada. Like I came here when I was very young. I learned English in like kindergarten and stuff. So I think like when we moved here, my parents wanted to see. They were obsessed with Canada. They wanted to see every part of it. So every weekend, even we were like road tripping. Like let's go to Parry Sound. Let's go to Sudbury. Let's go to
Oh, wow.
Montreal. Let's go to like they were really always. We lived in the car a lot,
That's amazing.
which
Do you
was
have any
fun. Yeah.
do you have any favorite trips you remember from when you were young? It's probably hard
When
to
I
narrow
was
it
young,
down.
you know what? Some of my favorite places to visit were like my my grandparents had this place in a place called Lenapoul, which is a town that's on the seashore right next to Cannes, where they have the film festival.
Oh,
And there's this amazing Gothic castle that this rich guy built one day, like back in like the 50s, I want to say, or something like that. Maybe earlier, maybe the 20s. I don't know. But he was really eccentric. So he populated it with artists and residents, and there's like gargoyles and sculptures all over it. And the beach is wrapped around this
Oh,
castle.
wow.
So as a kid, this was like, and the marina was right next to it. So it was just like the coolest place to spend your, like, at least a couple weeks in the summer. Like
Yeah.
I loved that place so much. Same thing with my father's small village in Italy. He's from a tiny little remote town where it's like just your family members.
Oh,
So
wow.
your aunts across the street, your nonas across the street. So it's just a little grouping of houses, and it's your family and extended family. And then the next village up the mountain is another family type of thing.
Wow.
So and it's by the seaside as well. So you just take your little Vespa down to the beach all day. We didn't have running water and electricity when I was a kid. So we would take our Vespas down there, spend the day down there, shower, and then go back up at night. And it was awesome because there were so many amazing folk stories in that area. And actually, Pinocchio was written on the other side of the mountain in the valley in this small town.
Whoa.
So yeah, it's got a lot of rich history. The woods in the mountains are like, they have witches and fairies that fuck with you and stuff like that. So it had like a really amazing, like kind of dark lore. And it was always kind of like, and like the original story of Pinocchio was really creepy, and they still
Creepy,
tell,
yeah.
like, it's still a lot of oral told tradition. So right now, what I'm trying to get my dad to do, because he's almost 80, is every time I go over there, I try and record him talking about these stories,
Yeah.
because I don't want them to get lost, because some of them have never been written down. So I want to kind of like collect them and then eventually illustrate them and then put them out so that the whole world can share in that. And like,
Oh,
we
that's
don't
amazing.
lose my family's culture kind of thing.
That's
And
incredible.
yeah.
Wow.
And like both sides lived through both world wars, right? So I have memoirs, like family members that have written memoirs that I would love to publish one day, because their stories are insane. Like, it's just, like I said, Royal Tannenbaums. Like, the stories are just mind blowing. And like, I feel like that's the type of history that people really need to hang on to. And unfortunately, a lot of people lose the stories of our past because they're not written down, right? So nobody has the patience to do that.
I know. That's sad, isn't it?
It really is. I love storytelling so much. Like,
it's funny. Recently I found my sisters and I wanted to collect stories from my parents, because they're in their mid 70s, and obviously we're at the age now where we're like, okay,
interested in them.
You're not just my parent, you're a person, and I kind of want to know more about you. Like,
you're not lecturing me now. I actually want to hear this stuff.
Exactly. It turns out we don't know much about your life that much. So like,
it's true.
I found this site called Memento, and so it will send a prompt to each of my parents every week, and they can record a video or audio of telling the story.
Amazing.
And then it uses like AI to write it all out in text. And then
my God.
After a year, it'll collect it all into a book for you that you can buy, the physical book. And then each page has a QR code, so you can scan it to actually hear them tell the story.
Oh my God. Just like, that's magic. Like,
incredible.
See, and this is the thing, is like, I have this like huge love for technology for stuff like this.
Yes.
But then it's like, why are we using it for evil when we could use it for so much good?
Right.
Like,
why are we using it to create art when we can create the art? And
you know, like,
use technology to help us create the art, not to do it for us.
Totally.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm gonna have to write that down for future reference.
I'll see if they can get me to sponsor this podcast. That'd be cool.
That would be rad. That would be super
rad. I read when you were little, you wanted to be a cartoonist. Or younger, was drawing like your first love or foray into art?
For me, it was like music, like curating music, playing with music, messing around with music, sometimes creating music. Like I used to create trip hop and stuff when I was in university, but I don't have the time to sit down and create tracks anymore, which sucks, because I probably could have been really good at it. But writing and drawing was two things that I think naturally I gravitated to. I was also like kind of an athlete when I was a kid. So I was into like, skateboarding. every single kind of dance except for tap. But then I had an injury when I was 18 that kind of put the kibosh on that. So drawing and writing, like I want to get back into writing so bad because that's one of the things that, well, I mean, I have a specialist degree in it from U of T. I'm not doing anything with, and of course, and but like I have these stories in my head, and I used to write millions of screenplays when I was younger and stuff like that, and short stories, and I'm working on 3 different novels. I have them all written in point form. I know exactly what I want to write, but I just don't have the time to sit down and actually barf it out on a page.
Right.
And I think that's the problem right now, is trying to find the time to do the things that actually spark my fire and keep that fire stoked, because I'm focusing a lot on things that keep the roof over my head and the rent paid, right? So you kind of defer to that, especially in this economy. Like you kind of have to put your passions aside for a second just to make sure that you and your cat can eat.
Yeah.
So, which is like what I need is a rich benefactor that allows me to live on their estate like back in the day and just be that garden hermit that just like, or like a court jester or something that just like, you know, comes up with fun things to, you know what I mean? And just like
pops up to
allows
entertain for a second.
Exactly. Allows me to
be the rest of the time.
freely do what I need to do to entertain the world. Yeah.
I don't think that's asking too much.
I don't think
understand.
it is either.
No.
I know you exist out there.
Yeah.
Feel free to contact me.
Yeah.
I'm down.
Same here. If anyone's out there listening.
Yeah,
please.
Exactly. You never know.
Day job gets old.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have the classic? Because I looked it up. We're about the same age. I'm not going to say what age because rude.
Oh, I'm 40. I'm proudly 46.
All right, same.
There's a lot of hair dye. Yeah.
Have you turned 46? You were born in 79.
Yeah. So January, I'm an Aquarius. So January, end of January. So
okay.
Just
middle
turned
of January, the 13th.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Wick.
Yeah. Did you have the classic Saturday morning cartoon experience that I had with like He-Man, the classics?
Of course.
Yeah. I was wondering if that made you want to be a cartoonist a little bit, or
absolutely. Like I was a big fan of like Hilarious House of Frightenstein, Fat Albert, like all of those shows were like Punky Brewster was. Which I watch now and I'm like, ugh. Like what? It wasn't as good as I thought it was as a kid, but everybody called me Punky Brewster because I looked like her, so I was like kind of drawn to that. But yeah, all of those Saturday morning cartoons were amazing, like G.I. Joe and like actually my first Thundercats, like Mumra, the floating dog was my favorite. Yeah. Or like I wasn't a big Care Bears fan, but I loved the little guy that was like grimy and like always kind of just like or like Gargamel and his cat were like always a source of huge pleasure for me.
Cat's
like
name
just
Dido, I think. Azrael,
yes.
Was it?
Yeah.
There was a cartoon character named Dido. I can't remember what show that was in, but
but I feel like so I fast tracked in high school because I was part of like the like enriched programs and stuff like that. So they fast tracked me through a Sheridan program for cartooning and animation and stuff. So I started with cartooning, and then I was like, I don't have the patience to plan out pages of. It was just a lot. I just wanted to draw and tell stories. Like for me, I was just like I was too young and I was impatient. And I don't think that it was the right age to put me in that program. My ADHD was like not diagnosed at the time. So I was easily bored if it took too long to get to something. That's why
cartoons take forever, right?
Yeah. And like I was really big on like Tank Girl and like all of these underground, like Fritz the Cat, like anything Robert Crumb, like anything that was subversive, banned. Like Sandman, I feel like now we can't talk about that anymore. But like, it kills me. But like, But like all of those were like really big formative, especially Tank Girl. I was like really for like that spoke to me 100%. The minute I saw that, I was like,
Yeah.
this is the female I want to be. You know what I mean? Like that
Nice.
was like
Yeah.
the one character that I was like, holy shit. Like because she's a little bit of everything too. Like
Yeah.
all at once, you know, like, and she's just like, fuck you. Like, fuck the system. I'll do what I want. Like, it's kind of an anarchist.
Plus, she was played by Lori Petty, one of the
See, I
like
feel like the Hollywood version, and
it
like I worked
watered
in
down and
I worked in Hollywood, and I understand how Hollywood works because I worked in there. And this is why I don't work in Hollywood anymore. They will take a beautiful idea and just suck the life out of it for
yeah.
commercial purpose. You know what I mean? They'll make it
Yep.
as smooth and palatable as possible for the common person. And it's like, I can appreciate where they're coming from, but I fucking hate it. It's like you're taking all of that real fire out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was so like the fact that it even had a plot line. Yeah, like Tank Girl comics are not about fully realized plot lines. They're really loosely based on stuff where it's like, yeah, let's
Yeah.
go punch a Nazi, but like we don't know what time frame she's in. She like skips like she'll
Yeah.
like be hanging out with Jimi Hendrix one second, punching a Nazi in the Second World War the next second. And like she's just like all over the map. And which is what I loved. It was just like so magical. Like, I don't know where she is right now, but I don't
Nice.
care. It's just great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never saw the movie back in the day, but I just remember seeing Lori Petty, and I had a huge crush on her back in the
Oh
day. So I'm
yeah.
like,
She's great. Yeah.
yeah,
And I'm glad
amazing.
they chose her for it. I think like out of everybody they could have casted at the time, that was probably the best bet at the
Yeah,
time. I would have
yeah.
gone with Natasha, what's her face now from Russian Doll. I would have gone with her more.
Oh, okay.
If it was done now,
Yeah.
I would have gone with her because she's got more of an edge to her, less of a high pitched tone to her voice, like more of a
Okay.
sarcastic vibe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Nice. Nice. Working at Much Music too, you must have been like
Yeah.
back when Much Music mattered, when it was
Yeah. I started at the same time as Rick the Temp. So we were
really.
yeah, yeah. So I actually dated one of his friends back in the day, like back then. And because it was just kind of like it was a great transition for me from high school. So because it was kind of like going into like an adult high school. Like it was just kind of run the same way where everybody's
Yeah.
kind of a little bit cliquey in a way, but like in a benign way where it's like everybody's like friends, we're all having fun. Moses Neimer was still in charge. We loved our jobs so much. We were allowed to be free, and the minute Moses like sold the company, that's when it got corporate, and all of a sudden, like they clamped down on email joke forwarding and
Oh
because back
man.
then we didn't have Facebook, right? So it was just like reply, like just forward to all, like and like there's like just the email chains of just ridiculous crap, and I don't know, it was a really fun place to work at the time. Back when it was pre-cell phone era, right? So it was
Yeah.
still like it was still that time where it was like DIY everything, and everybody was a normal person. Like they weren't superstars. Nobody was like driven by ego or popularity. Everybody was just doing the best they could to throw it together. And like it didn't have to be polished. I think that's what I loved about it. It was just like raw. We were all working in the background just on camera by accident when we were walking by with like a stack full of tapes or whatever. Like we were still using Betamax to film.
Oh wow.
Then. Yeah. So the tapes were like this big.
Yeah.
So I remember having to carry tapes to master control that were like, like that's how old I is. Yeah. But it was a fun time to be alive. And I really miss those days because I really fully enjoyed that job. And it was one of my favorite places to work back in those Neimer years. And everybody just like, because I was the youngest person on payroll by a landslide. And everybody kind of treated me like their little sister, and they all took care of me, and they all kind of like took me under their wing, and they taught me everything I needed to know. And then I was lucky. I bounced around the building once a contract was over. The next day I was sitting in somebody's chair interviewing for the next position, and I'd start
Oh, wow.
that day. And then they just kept me bouncing around. They're like, you're just going to stay with us somehow. So I ended up in like Bravo, Space. Like I helped in the inception of those stations, which was cool. So
Wow.
I got to be in almost every department and got to know like everybody. And I was only there for like a few years, but it was just like every department was so small that it was like everybody knew each other by the end of
Yeah.
even like 6 months. You'd know everybody in there.
Yeah.
And it was funny because sometimes people would come in for their interviews and stuff, and you wouldn't like, because I wasn't paying attention to the mainstream. I was in the rave scene, so I was like, fuck the mainstream. So I wasn't aware of top 40 music a lot, and so sometimes you'd be out there having a smoke on your break or whatever, and you'd be talking to somebody, and then you'd go back to your desk, and they'd be like, "Were you just like talking to Hootie and the Blowfish?" I was like, "What?" And they're just like, "Yeah, no, that was Hootie and the Blowfish." I was like, I thought they were like construction guys in the basement that were like making set design. Like, what?
I should not have asked them if they finished the toilets yet. Oops, I thought it was the plumbers.
And they just asked me if I could get mushrooms. Like, oh, okay.
Wow.
I'm not going to say whether or not I found those mushrooms for them. But
of course not. No.
They were super nice. They were super nice. Yeah. I just thought they were guys from the building, like,
that's
basement dwellers, like, yeah, it was so funny. But like it was that kind of place where you just run into like the most random situations and stuff.
Yeah.
But also it also taught me like never meet your heroes, like really early, and how to deal with celebrities right off the bat. So I was an asset to them because I was not easily starstruck. So when you had to handle people when they came in, I was just like, you're working. I'm trying to get out of your hair. I'm just trying to make your experience as smooth as possible because you're nervous. You've just got off a plane. You're tired. Your handlers are pissing you off. Like, I'm just trying to just be quiet and like separate your Skittles and get them to you and stuff like that. So it was I learned right away how I didn't ever want to be rich and famous and the pressures that puts on you, because you stop being a human and you become a product.
Yeah.
And they call them handlers for a reason, because you're just like this little toy poodle that they have to like coddle and make sure that you're okay so that you can perform.
Wow.
And like,
tragic.
Yeah, it is. And it's like, holy crap. Like, I'm glad I got that out of the way right off the bat, because that helped me get jobs more easily in the entertainment industry after that. Because a lot of people get fired right away for, asking for selfies and like, signatures or autographs and stuff like that. Like, they get all verklempt when somebody is like, famous in front of them. Like, you can't have that. You have to be like stoic in all. Even when something's going wrong and somebody's yelling at you and throwing stuff at you. I've had celebrities freak out on me before, and it wasn't my fault. It was just that they were frustrated. You have to just maintain composure at all times and just be the peace in the room, I guess, and allow them to just like, it's a really stressful environment to begin with. So having that ability to kind of like shut your emotions off from what's going on and be able to like attack problems quickly with executive decision making is a huge asset.
Yeah.
And like a lot of people don't make it in that world because it's like they don't have that. They just freeze when they get stuck on a problem. And it's like, okay, I assess the situation. I'm like, okay, we could do this, this, this. How best do you want to do this? And it's like, okay, let's do this. And then all of a sudden the problem's not there anymore and we can continue, because every second costs us like $100,000. So like there's no time to panic at all.
Yeah.
So I feel like all of that experience and being very highly organized to get ahead of that bus has taught me how to be an effective, I guess, leader in the arts and entertainment, and especially being an organizer for events and stuff like that, have them moving flawlessly, because there's always going to be something on fire constant. Like, it's literally the world's burning around you all the time in the arts. So like having to navigate that in a calm and rational manner is something that not a lot of people have had the opportunity to learn properly right off the bat. So
Right.
that environment really helped me to learn that, because everybody around me had a little bit of that, and they taught me how to, absorb and just deflect, you know, and
Yeah.
not let it get to you, because that's how you get heart attacks really early in life.
Yeah, no shit.
That changed when I worked in sports, because it was just heart attack city every day, and
Oh,
everybody was
really?
just a mess. Yeah. That's a whole other world. But you make a lot of money in that industry, so
Oh, yeah.
it was worth it.
Are you a sports fan at all? Was it like
I was before I worked in
rewarding?
there. I
Oh, no,
was
really?
before I worked. Yeah. I used to love watching NCAA basketball. I was a big hockey fan. I love baseball, all that stuff. Soccer, big fan of soccer. Like, my
Yeah.
family's a FIFA. We yell a lot. And I come from an athletic family. My dad was a pro rugby player at one point in his life. He played a lot of soccer. We were always in sports as kids. I played almost and I was always on boys teams, because I I was really good at sports, so I didn't want to be on girls' teams. I felt like that was kind of like not enough of a challenge sometimes.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, I ran a lot of track, but like I loved sports. And then when I worked for CTV, as a production coordinator, with all the live broadcast trucks and all the teams that were on those trucks going out to
Yeah.
all the live shows. So like concerts, fashion cares, the Oscars, all kinds of big shows, like
Wow.
multi-million dollar shows. And so just every show was worth like $4 million sometimes, like 1.5 to $4 million sometimes I was seeing like the.
Wow.
So the pressure, when you're working on 8 shows a day, crewing, organizing information, disseminating it out to all the departments, being that octopus for everybody, um, it was, and like doing it for half of the country. And then I had another woman that was in charge of the other half of the country. So we had split up into zones. Um, it was honestly one of the hardest places to work, because you were on call 24/7, even if you were on vacation. I had 2 cell phones. Like, one was the bat phone for emergencies.
Mhm.
And then I had like assistants trying to help me out all the time. There wasn't enough hours in the day to do what you needed to do. It was insane. Like, so I don't miss that. Also, my office was in the Rogers Center. So every morning you're walking to work smelling stale hot dogs and beer, and there's like
Beer.
puddles of vomit everywhere. And you're just like, I just want to get to my desk, man.
Oh, no.
Like, or like sometimes you'd like get out of work, and then like a game would be letting out at the same time, or like sometimes they'd be short somebody on the crew, so I would just jump in if we didn't have somebody to do that position, and then I would be going home with everybody coming home on the bus, so I would
Oh,
have to
no.
run and like get ahead of them and like try and get a seat so I could just fall asleep for at least an hour.
Yeah.
And then you'd have like 4 hours of sleep and then get back on the bus and do it all over again. And it was like,
Wow.
yeah, it was hard. It was really hard.
So, I mean, running things now like the punk rock flea market must feel like a
It's a
breath of
dream.
fresh air
It's a
by
dream. Yeah. Like
comparison.
yeah, like nobody's going to lose their heads over it. It's like
Yeah.
my motto that everybody loves to hear. It's like, doesn't have to be perfect, just has to get done. It's the punk rock flea, Like,
Nice.
just do what you can. It's
Yeah.
fine. Everything's fine.
It's
Like,
like Lauren Michaels' line for Saturday Night Live is, "We don't go on at 11:30 because we're ready. We go on because
yes,
it's 11:30." So
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that line.
Like, I've even had vendors like on their way when we open the doors. And it's like, yeah, I'm stuck in truck. And they're losing it. And I'm like, don't even sweat it, bud. Like, you're good. Like, we'll help
Yeah.
you load in as the show is going. We'll get like 5 people to help you if you want. Like, just, I've had people show up to the wrong venue, set up, realize they're in the wrong venue at another market. And they're like, oh no, is it too late? And I'm like, no, keep coming. Like,
Come on over.
just come on over. Like, it's fun. And then they ended up having a great day. And like, no matter what we deal with the Flea, everybody brings it together. Like, we have such an amazing community here in Hamilton. And like,
Yeah.
so many people are so willing to help me out to throw this stuff together. And I can't believe how far it's come or how big it's grown. We're across the entire nation now. It started in the States, in New Jersey, like 20 years ago almost. And
Wow.
we started the first one in Canada 11 years ago now. So it's our 11-year anniversary in May. And yeah, it's
Crazy.
it's nuts. And like we have chapters.
Congratulations.
Yeah, like I did not expect this. It's a lot. So I kind of want to start working on maybe a documentary about the history of how it worked, because honestly, I feel like as it's grown, we've realized that it's bringing together a community of small businesses and makers and even like small brick and mortars that are kind of struggling,
Yeah.
to draw people towards supporting them outside of the corporate world and stuff like that. And so that's why we always try and aim to do our shows just before a major holiday, like Mother's Day, Father's Day, stuff like that. And then
Oh,
like
yeah.
Halloween, Christmas, because we want to draw people away from the malls, the big box stores, and
Hmm.
support your local like businesses, because more than ever, and especially after last night's election results, I feel it's incumbent on us, if we can create the world we want to see. Fuck the government. Let's
Yeah.
stop relying on these people to create this world that we want to see, because obviously people aren't voting for that.
Yeah.
So we have to create it ourselves. We have to run it ourselves. We have to get the community involved. We need to start pushing that agenda, because that's the real revolution here. It's not necessarily screaming out on the street with a picket sign. Like I grew up in a family of sign picketing hippies, and my whole life I've been on the front lines of these things, even with my parents. And honestly, at the end of the day, after extensive conversations with a lot of people who are activists, what we need to do is more so than ever is to create opportunities for independence and to help people gain more empathy and nurture that empathy towards each other, because it's in caring about each other that we're going to get things done. We're going to have people taken care of, because clearly our government is just cutting all of that little by little, incrementally. We're seeing it every year. It's
Yeah.
just like
At
all of
every
our
level.
social, at every level. So, it's time for us, like, to, our revolution is to be about caring about each other and supporting each other and voting with our dollar. So
Yes.
every dollar spent in your local community means so much more than spending it like for all of these billionaires. Like, you're just making billionaires richer. You're literally killing our planet by buying certain things. Like, can
Yeah.
we just stop with Amazon? Can we just stop with, like,
Right.
I mean, I've been able to go a year without buying anything from Amazon. I think I bought one thing last year on Amazon because
Yeah.
I couldn't find it anywhere else.
Hmm.
And even then, it's just like, if you have to buy that one thing, that's cool. But like, don't rely on that. Don't rely on drop shipping. Stop being lazy. Stop taking the easy way out. Because if you just want to save $2 on that item instead of walking down the street and supporting your friend who has a small business that's failing right now, like we're
Yeah.
all seeing it, then it's, I don't know. I feel like voting with your dollar is the biggest act of revolution that we can do right
It's
now.
totally true. And it's
Yeah.
something that's easily accessible for everyone. I find that a lot of
100%.
people are like, the country or the province or the city is screwed up. There's nothing I can do to affect that
They
except
re- they
vote
re-
every 4 years.
yeah, they
But
rely on that powerlessness, that feeling of power. They're
exactly.
trying to make you feel powerless, and we're
Yeah.
not. There's more
No,
of us than there are them. So
it's true.
like,
Plus, you get the added benefit. Like, I live in the East End, so near
okay,
Ottawa Street,
yeah,
and I love this area, love this
yeah,
neighborhood.
it's a great one,
And we now know, like, the butcher, who we get our meat
right?
from. We know
Yes,
the baristas who make our
100%.
coffee, the
Yep,
Ottawa market. We know
yeah,
people that run these businesses now,
yeah.
and it's
Just
amazing.
behind. I'm just behind City Hall, and I can't tell you how many times I just walk down the street, and it's awesome to me to see so many people having businesses where I can just walk out of my house 10 minutes and get what I need on foot. Like I have a
Yeah.
car, I almost never use it because it's like I can
Same.
just get things on foot and provide my friends with income. But also,
Yeah.
like, we're all like and sometimes we do barter. It's great. It's like, oh, I need like some birthday cards or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, so I need some ground beef or, and it's like, sweet, let's do this. Like, I
Yeah.
wish I could do it for gas and
Oh,
rent,
that'd be amazing.
but like,
Yeah.
but it's nice to know that like you can walk down your street. I think both you and I are lucky that we live in neighborhoods that have that,
Yes.
where it's like local small businesses are clustered so
Yeah.
that you can get whatever you need really quickly. But I feel like people on the mountain have less opportunity. People in the suburbs have less opportunity to do that because of the sprawl. It's like they're just so spread out. Like you have to
Yeah.
drive to go to the convenience store.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how they live.
I don't either.
I don't.
No.
It's like
That
I
was a
can.
big part of why we moved here 8 years ago, and that
Yeah.
was a big reason.
That's
Was
why I
this
stayed in
neighborhood.
Hamilton. Yeah, that's why I stayed in Hamilton, because it was like I I was living in Toronto and I moved out here because my ex-husband lived here. We could buy a house cheaper here, so I was like, "Oh, I'll just commute," and then for work, because I was still working at CTV,
Yeah.
and so I just got an apartment right in front of the ghost station, like right at Yonge and Houston. So I'm like, "All right, we'll just
Nice.
be here." And then so we ended up buying a house like while it was still cheap and stuff. But then when I got divorced, I was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna get an apartment and then move back to Toronto in a year."
Right.
And then I met so many amazing people, and I realized that as a creative, I could do what I wanted here, and I wasn't. It's a different vibe here in Hamilton than I've seen anywhere else in the world. I've lived in a lot of cities, and I can tell you this: I've never seen a city so supportive, uh, a city that does not compete against each other for the most part. I mean, there's always going to be that guy, but like,
Sure.
or girl, or them. But that's got a chip on their shoulder and just doesn't want to cooperate. But like, I feel like out of every city I've ever lived in, this has the most supportive vibe. It's the best place for creatives to thrive. There's room for everybody, and we all, no matter what like style of thing that we're into, we all support each other's stuff.
Yeah.
So like you don't have to be punk rock to come to punk rock Flea. We get a lot of different walks of life. Like grandmas love us for some reason. It's amazing. They're like we get a lot of like different walks of life, and I feel like I didn't see that in Toronto. I didn't see that in New York or Chicago. I didn't see that in like
No.
other cities. Even in Paris, it's like everybody sticks to their own kind.
Yeah.
And they only support their own kind, and they don't feel comfortable in their own kind. And it's like that's why we've created the Flea to just be like so open and safe for every type of human.
That's awesome.
And dogs.
Yeah.
You gotta have dogs.
Of course, dogs.
If I don't see a dog at my show, I'm so sad. Like, like show me your dogs. Like, bring me your fur children. Like, because I don't have one anymore, so I gotta like live vicariously through yours. My cat's lovely. That being said,
nice.
She's looking at me like, come on,
come on.
We love you too. But yeah, like I feel like Hamilton is special that way because everybody is so supportive of everything. Like I see people who are into hip hop going to a metal show. I see people who are are metalheads going to a hip hop show. I mean, we all support each other. Like
like Supercrawl is a perfect distillation of that, right? Because
absolutely, yeah. It's got a little bit of everything.
You look at the music lineup; it spans so many genres.
Yeah,
and you've got so many people, obviously, just like hanging out together on the street for a weekend and stuff.
And this is the thing: is like, whereas in Toronto, it's just like I have. Even just being a vendor at certain markets in different cities, it's like some of them I show up and I'm like, oh, this is not my demographic.
Oh,
but like in Hamilton, I could be at any show and it's my demographic.
Yeah.
It's we're very, very fortunate, and a lot of people take that for granted that we have
That's
this.
True.
And I feel like a lot of people, when they kind of crap on Hamilton and they're just like, oh, everybody's, you know, like everybody that like thrives on misery in Hamilton. There was that vibe for a
Mhm.
while about 10 years ago where it's just like Hamilton thrives on each other's misery. Um,
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of gone. It's not that we're thriving on misery. We're all seeing the struggle, helping each other out, and
Yeah.
also trying to bring a sense of joy and happiness in what we're doing
Yeah.
to overcome that misery. Because
Yeah.
yeah, we're a blue collar town, and so we're not going to have the luxuries that other people have necessarily. You know what I mean? Or have that. I mean, it's changing now with the condos, but like
Yeah.
I feel like that brings us closer together, being a higher demographic that has a lower income level too, to have more empathy for each other and wanting to
Yeah.
participate in things that bring us joy, because it's it's a struggle
For
everywhere.
sure.
Yeah. I can't imagine
Yeah.
what people are going through with this, like especially in the steel industry right now, like with these tariffs looming
Tariffs
over
and
their heads.
everything.
Like
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who are just like trying to plan for having a future, which is hard, but they know that they
Yeah.
can do it here. Whereas they don't have to like move somewhere else just to like find work. They'll find something else to pivot to, which I
Yeah.
think is really optimistic. So,
I think so too. There's
yeah.
definitely like I grew up in Brantford, which is just like 20 minutes down the road.
Yeah.
And so like Hamilton was the big city when I was young.
Yeah.
And then
Which is
my friends
adorable.
my friends went to like McMaster for art and stuff. And so met a
Nice.
bunch of like artists here. I lived in Toronto for about 12 or so years. And
Okay.
then same kind of thing. We were like, we can't afford anything here
Yeah.
and we'd like to own a home one day,
Yeah.
but also it's so competitive.
Yes.
Like I was just getting into woodworking when we left there. So I wasn't involved in
Mm.
shows or anything like that, but my wife's been an artist forever. She started as a fashion designer,
Oh, cool.
and it was cutthroat in Toronto. It
Yes.
definitely was not.
Especially in fashion. Oh
Oh
my
my
God.
God. It definitely was not like, we're having a fashion show. Everyone come, bring your stuff. It was no,
Yeah.
I'm having a fashion show, uh,
Yes.
whatever,
Yeah.
So when we moved here, it was just like, felt like a breath of fresh air.
Totally.
Um,
Yeah,
I
I
remember
felt a lot of pressure relief when I
yeah.
moved here. I was like, oh, I can
Oh,
walk
yeah.
down the street in a pair of sweatpants. I don't have to get dressed up just to
Yeah,
like go buy
right.
a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah.
What?
I was so happy. I remember the first like week we were here, I was still working in Toronto. So I was doing the commute 5 days a week.
That's a
And
hard one.
yeah, the first day I did the commute, hopped on the bus, and at the first stop, someone got off and thanked
Mhm.
the bus driver. And I was like, that was
Yeah.
cool. That's a really
Yo.
nice person. And then the next person
Exactly.
did it, and the next person did it. And I'm like, that's
Oh
just a
my,
thing here?
it
This is
is.
awesome.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
in Toronto,
Yeah.
no one looks at each other, right? Like everyone's
That's
got
the
their heads down
thing.
on their phone.
I used
We
to be
didn't
the
know our
weirdo.
neighbors, nothing. Yeah.
Exactly. I was always the weirdo that was nice to everybody. And then people would be like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm like, I don't fucking belong in this world, man, because everybody's a dick. Like, what the
No.
fuck? Like,
No. I'm still after like 8 years of living here so happy when I'm just walking down Ottawa and a stranger just goes, morning. I'm like, hey, morning.
same,
Have a good day.
same,
It's just
same.
like,
Yeah, you know
it's
what?
so good.
Even like 2 days ago, I was in the laundry room and the weirdest looking dude came in, and other people probably would have been like, "Oh God, this sketch bag." And I was just like, "Hey, how's it going?" And then we ended up talking for like 20 minutes about because he saw Slayer like 17 times in his lifetime, and I was like, "Holy shit, like that's fucking rad!" Like, and then I was telling him about the punk rock Flea, and he's like, "Oh my God, that's fucking rad!" And I'm like, see, everybody would like, I feel like people like get scared when they see you, but you're actually a really nice person. And it's just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and then he wanted to talk to me more, and I was like, I gotta go. But like,
That's enough, but cool.
like, yeah, but boundaries. But at the same time, it's just like, I felt like just the way he was talking, nobody had talked to him and been nice to him like that in so long.
Yeah.
You could feel it off of him. And I was
Mm.
just like, oh, this person has been alienated by people. And he finally feels like he can have a conversation with a stranger. Like, I feel like he's been really reclusive
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
too long. And he was really depressed at first and talking about how shitty the world is and how he had to work so too many jobs and all this stuff. And by the end of
Yeah.
it, he was happy, joking, laughing. And I'm like, these are the moments where if you're nice to somebody, it doesn't matter what happened in your life. Don't be an asshole. Just
Yeah.
you can shine a little bit of light in somebody's life and maybe his day got better after that. You
Exactly.
know what I mean? And like he was telling me he has to take care of his brother who's disabled and stuff, and they just cut funding and all. Like he was
Wow.
really, really down at the beginning of the conversation. By the end of it, he was just like, yeah, and we're gonna try this and we're gonna try, and then all of a sudden he had these ideas of what he was gonna tackle next. And I'm like, sometimes you just need that person to walk by and say, hey, what's up?
See someone to
How's your day
notice you.
been? Yeah, how's
Yeah.
your day been? Or like, are you struggling with this in the building like I am? Like, my
Yeah.
cold water tap hasn't been working on the sink for like since November.
Yeah.
And I've sent in 5
No.
requisition
Oh
work
my God.
slips. I'm about to complain hardcore to the head office. I'm gonna send a strongly worded email. But like yeah, I was like, oh, and do you find that your internet cuts out? Like just little things that like I
Yeah.
feel like all of us struggle with in the building is just, you
Hmm.
bring up these little struggles and then all of a sudden we have something in common. And it's like
Yeah.
there's nothing else in common here. But like I do like Slayer, so that was another
Yeah. Yeah.
but um yeah, it was kind of one of those things where it's like every time I do something like that and then I see somebody open up and then they're nice to everybody around them after that, because I saw him again down in the lobby yesterday when I was getting my mail, and he was helping an old lady because the door was stuck, get her walker out the door and stuff like that. And she was like, oh, you're such a nice, and he was like, oh, you're good. I
Oh.
was like, holy shit, like this guy has always been kind of a grumpy Gus.
Yeah.
And like now it's like, okay, let's little ricochets
Yeah.
of
Little-
sunlight. You know what I mean? It's
For
dark
sure.
times, right?
Well, and
And I
that's how you
feel
can affect change when you feel helpless with what's going on around you, right?
yeah. And again, tying into this is the real revolution is like we just got to be kind to each other.
For
We have to
sure. Yeah.
cultivate kindness. And because
Yeah.
that will instill kindness in others, and then that will domino rally effect
Yeah, it has
across.
a huge effect on yourself too. I mean, it's
Yeah, it
not a
changes your whole
selfish thing at
day.
all, but yeah, I mean, we have a community fridge on Ottawa Street that I
Yeah, we have one
volunteer
here at
at.
yeah, we have one here
Yeah.
at Lock Street. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's just going to like do a fridge check once in a while. Someone will come up and
totally,
strike up a conversation, and
totally.
it
Yep,
takes 2 minutes out of my day,
yep,
and hopefully that person feels like they were
yeah.
recognized, and
Exactly. I cleaned out my pantry recently, and then I was at the dollar store. I grabbed a couple of extra things, and like I bought a can opener, and then I put everything in a bag. And the first person that I saw in a tent, I was like, "Hey, could you make use of this, or could you even trade this for what you need?" And they were
yeah,
like, "Oh my god!" And I was just like, enough. Honestly, I spent like $10 on extra stuff to fill the
yeah,
bag. And there was enough food there for a week for one person. And if there was like, it was like, I think there was like 3 people in that tent. So it's like there
wow,
was a pot, a can opener, like water bottles, and like everything was like easy to make, like
yeah,
something that's uncomplicated.
yeah,
So it's just even helping them out with that. It's like, even if you trade it for drugs, I don't care. I
yeah,
just like, here's something to help you survive. And they
yeah,
were
and you're
just
just
like, holy shit.
showing them compassion, which could
Exactly.
totally change their
And
lives.
then like a week later you walk by them, they're still there, and then like some jackass is yelling at you from across the street, and it's nighttime, you got your pepper spray out or whatever it is, your keys
Yeah,
like Wolverine in
yeah,
your
yeah, yeah,
and you're just like tensed up, and they're just like, "Hey, are you okay?" And then I was like, "Hey guys."
yeah,
All of a sudden I feel a little bit safer because we're all
yeah,
helping each other out kind of thing. And it was like,
yeah.
and they made sure, and like that guy fucked right off
Nice.
because he saw that there were witnesses, there was like, so
Mm.
it's like these little things actually do, I feel like these connections do help. And like,
For sure.
Yeah.
And I see
Yeah.
that so much more in Hamilton than I've ever
Oh,
seen
I don't see that
anywhere
anywhere
else.
else. Yeah. I
No,
don't I don't
no,
see
I
that
have
very
I
often.
have heard a term recently that concerns me. Uh, it's been mentioned in a couple like articles in the spec and stuff, but it's compassion fatigue, and I'm like,
Oh.
how could you have compassion fatigue? Why is that
I
even a term
I
that
I
exists?
I think that that's a made up term by the media to dissuade.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where they create a term like that. It's not compassion fatigue. It's overconsumption of media fatigue.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
fatigue in other ways.
Yeah.
It's like bad news cycle fatigue. It's
Yeah.
not compassion fatigue. You don't get fatigue from that. It feeds you.
No, exactly.
So I think that's one of those misnomer terms that like people have created to knock the wind out of us
Yeah.
as we grow these self-sustaining systems in our communities
Mm,
because they feel locked out, and it's any way to control the narrative. And I've worked in newsrooms. Let me tell you, the narrative is
mhm.
controlled even since the 90s. When I
Uh-huh.
was in film school, we were taught to fake everything, and that every station has a political party affiliated with it. So,
Mm,
you know, I don't want to say who's affiliated with who, but get to know who is funding these broadcast
yeah.
stations and newspapers and stuff like that. Like, who has the stock invested in this? Because they're the ones that are actually controlling the narrative.
Right.
We were told as workers, oh, you can't say this, or we have to spin it this way, or like, oh, this is going to make us look bad. So, like, we have to spin. It's always a spin. It's wag the dog out there constantly,
Yeah. Yeah.
all the time. I don't know if you've seen that movie, Wag the Dog. I feel
I
like
haven't.
people,
No.
no, everybody should watch Wag the Dog and Idiocracy right now because those
Oh,
two
idiocracy
movies,
for
yeah,
sure.
I just
Good
revisited
God.
that. I just revisited Idiocracy a couple weeks ago, and like, both those movies.
Remember when that used to be a comedy about
And now it's,
something that
well, it's
like
like a mockumentary that turned into a
hilarious?
documentary. And you know what?
Yeah.
Mike Judge has been on podcasts recently talking about what he thinks about it now. And there's the story behind the making of that movie was very interesting because a lot of the brands in that movie, when they found out how they were being used in that film,
Mm,
started getting pretty pissed off.
really?
So yeah, it's he he's like an ad buster's dream. Like, I love Mike Judge because he had the chutzpah to actually get in there and say what we needed to say about the decline of civilization.
Yeah.
We are in the dummening right now. And unfortunately, I hate to say it, but like we're we're seeing idiocracy like actually start to come into effect. We're in the early stages of it, but
Yeah. Yep. Good times.
yeah, but at the same time, we can create a level of value for the world and maintain our values and 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 just like pass that down to future generations to keep our values alive because otherwise they're all going to get swept under. I
Yeah.
feel like, yeah, I mean, teach your children,
Yeah.
let them lead the way.
I think I'm gonna write you in on the next election ballot.
You know what's funny is I've had a few people say like, and I heard this from a car passing by recently. It's like Fazooli for mayor, and I was like, you know what? I would never want to be mayor.
No.
And I had an uncle who was a mayor of one of the areas in Paris, and he was like me, and it was really hard for him because you want to do all of these things, and then you get into that seat in office, and then you realize how little you can actually change certain things because of the
Yeah.
bureaucracy that's been created and the red tape you have to go through
Mhm.
and the dissent in the ranks that, of all the levels of hierarchy in government. It's just like it's very difficult to, and this is why it's like I don't want to shit on the politicians that are actually wanting to do good, because they're trying their best with what they have and how they can actually change things.
The system that they have to work with.
Exactly. And the only thing that goes against these red tape blockages is, unfortunately, money, which we're seeing now, which is why, like, a lot of people are like, oh, why is Trump allowed to do this? And it's like, well, the courts are trying to stop him most of the time, but they can only go so far because people can be bought.
True.
Like, I'm wondering with that landslide last night, I don't know. I don't want to say it out loud, but it's very convenient that there was a landslide.
Isn't it?
Yeah. So, let's just put that there and let it cook. We'll see how it all shakes out.
Yeah.
But, but it's also really good to see that people are starting to voice their opinions. They're taking to the streets. I know that all over the U.S. there's protests that are not being publicized on the media, constantly going on every day. I have friends all over the U.S. sending me videos of what's going on in their neighborhoods. There is dissent going on. We're not being told about it because, I mean, they don't want us to know that this is effective. So, let's just hope for the best.
Okay.
If not, let's just, I'm going to start doing workshops for kids about how to make Molotov cocktails and
there you go.
Blackout CCTV
How to pick
cameras
locks and
how to,
nice.
How to petition your government. Actually, there's a petition right now to remove Elon Musk's Canadian citizenship.
I saw that. Yeah.
It's a House of Commons ones too. So it's like higher levels of government are already on it. Like,
they said if it gets like 500 signatures, it has to be brought up or something.
Yes.
And I checked on it like the day after, and it was at like 30,000 already, or something like that.
Yeah. Yesterday it was like, crazy numbers. So it's like, let's just keep spreading that link around for a second.
Maybe I'll put it in the show notes.
Or just like every like level of municipal government, federal government, provincial government that you can email with your suggestions.
Exactly.
Because they need to be bombarded with the people right now. I think they need to be hearing the voices firsthand. Because
for sure.
I mean, like, it's this is crazy.
100%.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's good we have people like you and artists who create art in these times. I think we need
this is
that
the thing,
more than ever.
I think that it's incumbent on us in the creative world to speak out and to continue putting the foot on the gas and to inspire people to create the world that we need to see. Because if we don't, then it's lost. Like, the fight is lost. So it is very important for us to use our voices. I'm actually in the middle of brainstorming ideas. I might have to shift my art focus from the series that I normally work on to something that's a little bit more politically profound, because I think the message needs to be there. It needs to be repeated. It needs to be valued across communities. It needs to start making waves. We can't just live in this vacuum of creating things of, like, add levity to it, because we all need levity in these dark times. I think that's the most important thing. I would love to see more comedians use levity, and like, there's so many really good comedians that are social justice warriors, and their voices are being heard. We need more of that. We don't need any more toxic bullshit or complaints. You know what I mean? We don't need more negativity proliferated in this world. We need to, as creatives, start actually doing the things that, because it's the artists that influence people to move, really, in the end. So, I think
Yeah.
I think it's important for us, and I think we should take that on as a part of our work. But we should also balance our lives so that we're not exhausted. Because I'm
Yeah.
dealing with burnout right now, and it's
I can
getting
imagine.
difficult. Yeah, and um, I want to be effective, so take breaks, meditate for 10 minutes, cut out all the crap foods in your life so you're not feeling like crap. Get a
Mhm.
good night's sleep. Don't doom scroll before you go to bed. Take
Or
a
when you wake
walk.
up.
Yeah, take a walk in the sunshine or the rain or the
Yeah.
snow. Go beer bogganing while it's snowing. And so that's one of my favorite pasts. I don't drink. I'm 3 years sober, but like I'll smoke
Nice.
a joint and get out there on Chinook. Fuck it. It's like, oh, it's snow day? Fucking yeah. I'm on a magic carpet like an idiot, like trudging through the snow. But like find these moments of like childlike wonder to reset your anger levels back down to zero. This is where we get exhausted. Is like if we have cortisol running through our bodies all the time because we're always upset about something, and I'm a doom scroller. I get like that all the time. And like I have OCD and ADHD. So like sometimes I'll get off task or I'll answer somebody and then I'll find myself doom scrolling and I'm like, oh shit. And then, all my feed is like all this political stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's a mix of a lot of things, a lot of raccoon videos and wiener dog videos, but like and like inspiring artists and stuff like that. But like it's you consume so much. Know what your sources are. Don't get mad at somebody who's got shitty sources. That's just making stuff up. Anybody could put stuff on the internet.
Yeah.
Honestly, half of YouTube is made up by like incel dudes in like their mom's basement wearing army camo and talking
Yeah.
about doomsday prepping, and they have this very skewed like view of the world because they're so shut out of the rest of society because they're not in they're not involuntary celibate. I say it's that they're not fuckable because they're being dicks.
Exactly.
You're not
Yeah.
unfuckable because you're not attractive.
You're
You're
just a dick.
unfuckable because your personality.
Yeah.
And that's called, it's Darwinism at work. You're
Hmm.
unfuckable because we don't want to bring those genes into the next generation.
Exactly.
So,
It's not that difficult an equation to
yeah,
figure out.
it's
Yeah.
not. But at the same time, it's like these people who are just like wanting to find people who identify with them
Yeah.
and prove them right. And those are the people that are the most dangerous. And they're the ones that there's just so much I feel like 90% of information on the internet is misinformation. Same thing with medical information. Same thing with like, don't diagnose online. Don't, look at your sources. Like there's a reason in university or even in high school, you're not allowed to use Wikipedia to do your homework. You're not allowed to cite websites. You're not allowed to cite, certain things. Like
Yeah.
go when did we stop believing scientists? When did we stop believing academics?
Right.
When did we pull their funding? Like, are we trying to make a dumber society that's easier to control? Is that what it is? Is that what it is?
Kind
You
of
know what I mean?
seems
Like,
that
we
way.
got to start thinking smarter and like be discerning about the information that we bring into our lives. And like when you start to see something that you're upset about, it's okay to step back and go for a walk or like
Yeah.
I feel like physical. I learned this with ADHD. It's like you get frustrated in a cycle. You have to stop and do physical activity like yoga or something. And then that resets your brain into a different cycle. And then it builds positive neural networks in a positive direction. If you keep building your neural pathways to solidify in a cycle of bad, 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 of course you're
Yeah.
going to be depressed. Of course you're going to be exhausted. Of course you're going to, like, I dated a neuroscientist for some time and I studied psychology in university. And it's about building neural pathways towards happiness, not depression. So when you reinforce the same thoughts over and over again, you're just building stronger neural pathways. And then after a while, that just becomes your normal way of thinking. So building
Yeah.
gratitudes every day, that's forcing you to go into the happiness direction. Taking time to be in awe of nature, that to like forest bathing, like putting your feet in the ground, just hanging out in your backyard, go to the beach or something like that, be near water for 20 minutes.
Listen to the
These
waves.
things, these things build neural pathways that are in a positive direction. And then all of a sudden you start not being affected by negative shit as much. So start building that hobby, like make it a hobby of just being optimistic and feeling like, yes, I'm worth something. I can do this. I mean something to my community. Helping other people is also another big one.
Huge.
When I studied the science of happiness at Berkeley, and like there's 7 scientific ways of increasing happiness. Helping others is a huge one. When you help somebody else, like that guy in the laundry room or whatever, that increases your neural links towards a more positive state of being. Meditation is another one. They study monks' brainwaves all the time. They have you can heal your own body through meditation. They're still working on that. Actually, the guy I dated is actually working on the studies for that because he had lung cancer, went to Tibet, hung out with monks. 5 years later, he's cancer-free.
Wow.
And he doesn't understand it. That's why he went to school to become a neuroscientist to understand how that worked.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I'm sure there's lots to that story that,
Sure.
But it's really important work to be doing right now because our brains are capable of so much more than we know. And it's literally, when you go to a psychiatrist, I've been in therapy for a long time. When you go to a psychiatrist, it's all about changing your perspective. It's always going to be the same world on fire. We only know about it more and more now because we have the internet.
Yeah.
It's always been on fire like this. Always. There's always been shitty people. There's always been problems. We just know more about it and we're bombarded with it because we have that information in our pocket computers.
Yeah, exactly.
At our fingertips, every 5 seconds when you get distracted and you're scrolling, that's when you get hit with it. So I think it's important to understand like how to tap into these resources that you have within yourself to not talk negatively about yourself. You know what I mean? Like
100%.
It's crazy. A lot of people don't understand like the value of a good night's sleep. It's
oh God, yeah.
It's not, or like eating well. Like don't eat processed foods for a bit and see how you feel. And like when I quit drinking, I was like, oh my God, I'm not actually that depressed. It was the alcohol leaving me in this cycle. Yeah. And it was like, because it takes at least 2 weeks to get that shit out of your system.
Yeah.
Every time you have a drink, that shit lingers in your brain for 2 weeks. So yeah, I'm not on heavy antidepressants anymore because I don't need them. I can actually reframe my thinking as I go. Like a couple weeks or maybe like a month ago, I had, and this sucked, I had a hard drive and it was all my archives and like, I didn't want to say anything to anybody for a long time because I was like, nobody needs to know until I figure it out. But this hard drive with all my archives, 11 years worth of artwork, all of my client files for graphic design, photography, all of my photography for the past 11 years, my DJ library, everything. It wouldn't mount. I was going to transfer it onto a new solid state.
Yeah.
Like a bigger one. And that day, the hard drive came in. I plugged it in. I plugged the other one in and it wouldn't mount. And I was like, oh no. So I used to do a little bit of IT, so I was like troubleshooting. And I called my brother, who's a McMaster IT, and I was like, both of us troubleshooting. We couldn't get it. I found a tech that took it into one of those rooms that's like with a hazmat suit. Like the clean room with a hazmat suit. And the whole time, he's like, it took three weeks or something like that to get an answer. So the whole time I'm like, don't freak out until it's a definitive answer that the files are gone.
Yeah.
And then today I actually got the phone call this morning and it's like, we've recovered your files. None of them are damaged. We're going to back them up. I'm like, holy
amazing.
fuck. I was like, I just watched my entire business fucking collapse. So I
Yeah.
was like, oh
Shit.
no. And I'm like, the whole time I'm like, I cannot be depressed about this. I cannot be depressed. But it's like this underlying anxiety that you have to constantly be like, nope, don't react until you have a
Until
definitive
you
answer. You
know. Yeah,
don't know
exactly.
yet. You don't know
Yeah.
yet. And I'm glad because you don't need to suffer
Needless.
without any, needlessly.
Yeah.
You do
Yeah.
not need to suffer needlessly. So like this anxiety and worry, like every time I have a gig,
Yeah.
unless it's like Electric Diner where it's like, yeah, I just come in and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm used to it. But
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
when I have a gig where it's like something new I haven't done before or whatever, I'm
Uh-huh.
always like so freaked out. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
stage fright. And I'm like, oh.
Really?
Even after 30 years of DJing, I'm just like, no, I get like just anxiety. And I'm like, this is why I hide behind a desk. I'm not in
Yeah.
bands because
Yeah.
I'm like puking before the show. And like,
Oh no.
yeah. Yeah. Like I've been in bands, like I could sing and stuff. I was a drummer as well. And like,
Oh, nice.
no, very briefly because
Yeah.
my anxiety was just like so bad.
Yeah. I'm the same. I used to be in a band way back in the day, and it
Nice.
was so nerve-wracking before
So
stepping on stage.
nerve-wracking, right?
I
Like
just
even when
shaking and everything. And
yes, like
second I got up there, though, fine.
no problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I used to do the same thing with sports. Like, okay, got to run
Yeah.
100 meter. You got to do this for the fucking team. You got to be the, and then by the end of it, I'm like fucking having a cigarette, fucking laughing at everybody. Yeah, like that was easy. Like no
That was
problem.
easy.
Like, God, I puked for like 3 days before. Like, yeah. So and that's the thing. Is like it's like as a 46-year-old person now, it's easier for me to calm myself down. But like, yeah, people got to really like realize that it's like all of these feelings of anxiety, depression, all of that stuff is literally within yourself perception.
Yeah.
And the minute you start to look on the bright side of things, it's like every time I don't have rent yet. I'll be getting paid this weekend, so I'll be fine. But like, I always squeak by. But like, instead of freaking out every month, I've been doing this for 15 years on my own. Instead of freaking out, I'm always like, dude, I'm like a cat that always lands on their feet. I'm like, I still have a roof over my head. I have a fridge full of food. All my bills are paid otherwise. You know what I mean? Like I've been doing good otherwise. Like my cat's happy. My friends are doing really good things. I've got 2 shows this weekend. I'm doing Fascination tonight, 3-year anniversary. I'm going to be shooting with my friend Babs, and then who's doing such an amazing job for that, the alternative community with creating a truly safe space. And then I've got Risky Business 80s night with the Dr. Disc crew that we always love. Both of them are at Corktown. On Saturday, I get to hang out with all my favorite people. I get to do what I love. I'm going to have a great time. Like, regardless of what happens today, I'm going to end the day on a good note. So, like, that's all I'm looking forward to is, like, hang out with my pals and, like, how lucky am I to do what I love for a living?
Yeah,
so
right.
it's all about reframing that stuff. It's like, I get to sleep in whatever I want.
Yeah.
Nobody has that luxury. You know what I mean?
No,
It's
that's
like,
true.
I could go to bed at 4 a.m. and nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to get up at 9 a.m. or like get up at 6 a.m. to get on a train.
Yeah.
Like, I literally work from home. And I have so many people who support me. It's just like the people at the cotton factory, or the people like at Dr. Disc, and the people, like in my community that always help me out with all kinds of stuff. So it's like, I'm very fortunate. And so when you start to count those gratitudes, you can actually like help stave off that depression, burnout of the overwhelmingness of the crazy world, or of the overwhelm that you have in your job. Like, I've learned to cut things down into manageable chunks. Like, I remember my therapist is like, you're trying to eat the whole elephant in one shot. It's bite sizes. You can't eat an elephant all at once. You're like this big. So like bite sizes. You'll eventually eat the whole elephant. Not that we're eating elephants, just as like a big animal. Just as a big animal.
We do not condone eating elephants.
We do not
just to make it
condone
clear.
the eating of elephants.
We do not.
They're lovely animals.
Yes.
They will do no wrong.
They're
but like,
smarter than most humans.
They're exactly smart. Actually, there's a really good book about elephants. I have ADHD. I could tell you all about it, but that would be another hour. Yeah.
We'll do another episode.
Yeah. It's told by their point of view, which is a really, really cool book.
Cool.
Yeah. Nice. I don't remember the title. I think it's The White Bone. I don't remember the.
Okay.
The ADHD brain. It's like, oh, White Bone. Yeah. Like, okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'll text you the name. Like.
Yeah.
But
sure.
like, it's you got to look at things in like bite-sized, manageable chunks. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't let the fear of the world collapsing around you get like, we're still in our. Remember during the pandemic, like all of us were out of work, all of us were freaking out. We still had each other. I was like, yo, I still got heat water, like hot water in my tap. Yeah. I've known poverty before. I've been on the welfare system before. I was 16 years old when I left home. I know exactly what it's like to panhandle on the street so that you can get a box of KD, go play Street Fighter for an hour, and then get a pack of cigarettes. You know what I mean? Like, I know how difficult it is to afford toilet paper at a certain point. So you're stealing it from Jackson Square. And like, I know, because I lived in Hamilton for a year when I was 16 because it was cheap here. Nice. Yeah. But like, I know what it's like, and life could be worse. I have friends who are in very dire situations right now. We're all pulling it together to help them out, but we always have each other to help each other out, and they are going to be okay, just as we were okay. I remember so many of my neighbors, they're like, hey, I just ordered a bunch of groceries. I bought too many, like a big bag of onions. Do you want half of it? And then they put together a bag where it's just like random stuff that they had extra. And they were like, just take this home with you. And I'm like, what? Nice. They're like, you don't have money right now. Like, just take this. And I'm like, what? And it's like, oh, I just ordered extra bread from some like local bakery. Or I just went to go to Fitty's Produce and got a big box of vegetables for $20. I don't like this stuff. Or like, I got too much of it. I'm just one person. Here. Like, nice. I feel like at my building, actually, still, there's this lady who makes sandwiches for people in the lobby and just leaves them there.
That's awesome.
So in like our laundry room, it's like, instead of a garage sale, it's just like people just leave shit and take shit. So our building still, from the pandemic, still does this. We still leave food. We still leave objects. Like, I got a juicer a couple years ago from the laundry room, and then I got frustrated with it, so I put it back in the laundry room. Somebody else had it. You know what I mean? Like, it was just a pain in the ass to clean. And then like stuff like that, where it's just like, you know, regardless of what happens, you're still here. You're not living in a tent down by the river, you know? And like, I walk down by the bayfront or downtown or up the rail trail almost every day. I do a 10K just to like, because I get restless if I don't walk. Off like at the beginning of the day. I can't sit still. So I just walk or like skateboard or do something active for like a couple hours. And then afterwards, I'm so tired that I have to sit still. But I see like people living in the weirdest corners of our city right now. And every time I see these things, I'm like, I'm so fucking grateful, because I don't make a lot of, I live along the poverty line, but not like this. I don't need to call on social support. Right. You know, I don't need to go to the food bank. I don't need to, but I do have friends who do. And so, yeah, like, you have to count your gratitudes. You have to help out the people around you and stuff. And I feel like that's how we can stave off that the depression of the world burning around us.
Yeah.
I mean, the fires will always be burning in some way or another. You can't help everyone. You have to help yourself so that you can help others, right? So to keep your mental health in check, like, yoga, nature bathing, being in awe of something that's greater than yourself, like even going to an art gallery and seeing like a priceless work of art by like Caravaggio or some shit. You know what I mean? Like, find something that is like, that you are in awe of. Like, that feeling of awe is important. Going back to childlike wonder, doing something whimsical and fun that if you were a kid, like, you are an adult, you could do whatever the fuck you want right now. Last night I was laughing because I was like, little kid me would be so proud of me right now, because I'm eating nachos in my bed. I'm watching Black Sails. I'm watching like full on pirate shit.
Yep.
I'm just like, I could do what the fuck I want. I'm eating chocolate cake at 2 a.m. I'm living
Yeah.
large, baby.
Oh yeah.
Like, so these little things, or like jumping in. I was jumping in puddles on the way home from doing groceries because I had rubber boots on. I was like
Oh,
jumping in the
perfect.
puddles and like kicking snowbanks and like, the icy part that's like
Yeah.
so satisfying to crunch.
Oh
Little
yeah.
things like that, just little childlike wonder things that make you happy, and
Yeah.
funny, cute things that like bring some sunshine in your day. Those are the things. Those are the things. It's
Yeah,
like
for sure.
we gotta cultivate these little things
Yeah.
all the
Yeah, I
time.
feel like the pandemic helped me with that a lot too.
Yeah,
Because
me
I
too.
mean, we were fortunate to get out of Toronto a few years before that all hit.
Yeah,
And like
yeah, we were.
we were downtown Toronto, like Queen and University, walled
Me
in by
too.
condos.
I was a block north of
So,
Queen and John, Kensington Market. I was,
oh,
yeah.
okay. Yeah, we were in
Also
like,
Roncy and Dundas. Yeah, like,
yeah. Yeah, we were at a Queen and McCall, so like right behind Queen
yes,
Mother there.
totally.
But
I
we were
used to
totally
love
walled
that
in.
place.
Oh yeah. Their
The
back
hot,
patio is just the
the
best.
the hot and sour soup. Like
Yeah, yeah.
every time you had a cold, I was like, get the hot and sour soup, man. Your
Yeah.
whole face would be on fire.
Oh man, they're so kind there. The owners there are
They
so
are
kind. They were amazing.
beautiful people.
But I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
we only had this balcony. That was our only outdoor space. And
Yes.
so we moved to
Same.
Hamilton. We have a
Yep.
house now. We
Yeah.
were able to purchase a house with a backyard. We've got a
Crazy,
parking
right?
lot right beside us, so there's no one beside us. It's just
Yeah.
we can see the
Amazing.
sky now. It's
Right?
crazy.
It's
And after
nuts.
8 years, we're still like, look how much sunlight comes in our house. This is amazing.
Crazy. It's
We
crazy
never
good.
used to get this. But
Yeah.
I mean, if during the pandemic, if we were still in Toronto,
Oh,
that would have been a bad scene, man. We would have been like
exactly.
jumping off that balcony,
Yeah, like I could have a garden on my balcony, whereas in
Yeah.
Toronto, it's like that garden would die just based on the
Yeah.
air quality alone. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, like,
exactly.
and I'm like blocks away from the rail trail. I'm also
Yeah.
like a 20-minute walk down to the bayfront. So in
Yeah.
the summer, when it's a nice day, I can't work inside. I just take my laptop, I go work at the Mulberry patio, or I go down to the bayfront
Nice.
and work until
Yeah.
my battery's out, and then I go to the Mulberry to charge. Like, I'm just like, yeah, okay, I gotta charge. Like, but like I find like we have so many green spaces around us. Like, we're very,
Yeah.
very lucky. Like,
Dundas Valley and up the
totally.
mountain.
Like the RBGs are right there. Like
Mhm.
I don't even have to hop in the car. It's a nice hike to just walk over there and like do
Yeah.
Hendry Park Trail. It takes an hour. But then if you do the whole walk from my house, it's like a 4-hour ordeal. But like if it's a beautiful day, it's a whole afternoon of it. Same thing
Yeah.
with like we have Gage Park. We have
Gage
that.
Park, yeah.
Yeah. Like we have
Yep.
indoor spaces we can enjoy in the winter that still have plant life.
The
Toronto,
greenhouse. Oh, it's
fucking,
beautiful,
yeah.
yeah.
Like when I was at Dundas and Roncy, I remember we had High Park, and that
Mhm.
was a big thing. But I personally, like, I was living in the second floor of a house, so our our backyard was never used by us because there was like a kid downstairs that would use
Oh,
it, and we
yeah.
just didn't want to get in the kids' way.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like, they were kind of like territorial about the backyard, so it
Mm.
was like myself and my roommate would just be like, fuck it, we're just gonna go hang out at High Park. Like, it's our backyard now. But at the same time, it was like the minute it gets dark, it's dangerous there. Like, same
Yeah.
thing with like Central Park. I remember Coney Island was not a good place to be.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah, like certain places where it's just like you were stuck in the city living and you were like, well, this is supposed to be my outdoor space, and it's unlivable because there's so many
Yeah.
fucking really severely mentally ill-adapted people roaming the streets in a dangerous manner. Let's just put it
Yeah.
that way diplomatically.
Yeah,
Like, I'm sure they have their own stories and stuff why they are. I mean, and everybody has a story of why they are that way. But I mean,
For sure.
doesn't matter what happened to you as a kid. It doesn't give you the excuse to be an asshole.
So true. No.
Yeah. I know a lot of
100%.
people who have been through hell and back, and they're not dicks. So it's like, it doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily apply to,
Yeah, that's
just you,
it's
pal.
not a
Like,
given
no.
outcome. No.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
could do better. You know that, right?
It is possible.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to
Yeah.
take up. I'm so thankful that you
Yeah, this has
agreed
been
to
a
chat
good
with me.
chat. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, this has been a wicked chat.
I still have so many questions that maybe we'll have to do a
Oh,
part 2 one day or
yeah,
something.
I'm up for a part
But
2 if you want.
yeah, I did also want to promote you're in this book,
Oh,
Homemade
yes.
Hamilton, on
Yes.
page 1, by the way.
That was weird to see. I was expecting like further along. I was like, oh no.
Yeah. Well, we have that in common because I'm in here too.
Yes. Yeah, I
Um,
saw that.
yeah, dead center.
Yeah.
Nice.
So rad. That was a great shot
Yeah.
of you too. Very expressive. I
Yeah.
love that he captured our personalities
Right?
so well. Like
Yeah,
Ian's
yeah, yeah.
a master for that. I was like, I'm not going to pose because every time somebody like takes a picture, I'm like,
I know.
like,
I know. I'm always like, yeah.
gremlin mode. So like I always tell people, I'm like, catch me off guard. Like I can't tell you how many times at Hamilton Fashion Week the photographers are like, stop it, because I'm always like the Wayne, like
normal. Like, this is my normal. All right.
like no, it's not that kind of photo. I'm like, just
Yeah.
catch me off guard because otherwise you're not gonna get it. Like,
Yeah, right.
this is why I hide on this side of the camera.
Yeah.
Because I just want to hide under a coffee table when you put me on a
Same.
on a stage. So
I know. I was so nervous. I was like so grateful that he wanted to include me, but I'm like, oh shit, this means now I have to get my photo taken.
Same.
This is gonna
I
be
was like,
terrible.
I gotta put on makeup and
I'd never met him
presentable.
before either, and I was like, okay, social anxiety and all this stuff. I gotta meet a new person.
You know what? I was
man.
actually kind of stoked because for me it was like a mini fangirl, like local fangirl moment. Because as a photographer who does like we're all very niche. All photographers are very niche. So I do like nightlife. I love shooting drunk people. I love catching you at your ultimate most fun. You know, so I love shooting kids while they're doing the water down treat and pet walk and stuff like that for Halloween. Like I love just shooting fun happening because I love that pure look of joy. I love capturing that pure look of joy. But he's an absolute master at his craft. And I've always wanted to hit him up for headshots, but I could never afford him. So it was just like, so how much? And I was asking him, I was like, what cameras do you use? Like, we were nerding hard that day. He was showing me his Leica. I'm like, I wish I was a rich kid. But it's like also he's really down to earth, where it's just like both of us were like, it's not the camera, it's the photographer. And both of us are completely different types of photographers, but we're really, really good at what we do. And it's like, I've been shooting the same settings for 25, 30 years now. Yeah. And I've had a camera in my hand since I was about 4 or 5. My dad worked for Canon at one point as a translator.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was always like cameras were always in my family. My grandfather always had that Olympus SLR. It was handed on to me when I was like 10. And it cost my parents a fortune in film and developing when I was a kid because I was shooting everything all the time.
Amazing.
But yeah, like it was a little bit of a fangirl moment to be able to like, you know, kind of like nerd hard on gear and like ideas and complaining about working with clients as a freelancer, like the good, the bad, the ugly. How do you do it? It was kind of nice to have somebody older than me who's more experienced than I am with other things give me some pointers. And like I learned, you know, like it's great. And like his wife is lovely. She's been a vendor with the punk rock Flea now. So we're all kind of like, we're all just kind of like pals now. It's great. And it's nice. It's cool because I always kind of looked up to him. So now it's like, I feel like kind of more like he's a pal. You know? Like,
it's awesome. He made the whole process so like comfortable.
Yeah, and enjoyable, and like I was so
he's just kind of
out.
snapping as we're having conversations, and it's like, oh shit, that one looks good. Whoa, weird. All right.
I was just like, whoa, do I look like that? Like what?
I know. I kept double taking, like, who's that?
I kind of want to scrounge together $100 for his March portrait studio thing.
Oh yeah.
Because I was like, I could use some like professional shots where I'm like in a blazer or whatever for like actual professional shit
with a monocle.
Yes. Oh. Yes. I wonder if Vintage Soulgate has one. I know Nikki B's got one. Yeah.
They must.
Yeah.
I have a tobacco pipe if you want to borrow it for a photo
Oh,
shoot.
yes.
There you go.
Actually, I think I have one too. Like a
Nice.
Sherlock, like a good Sherlock.
Yeah. Oh,
But
yeah.
I mean, it's full of weed, but like, yeah. It'll do, pig. It'll
do.
do.
Still a pipe.
Yeah.
Pipe's a pipe.
But yeah, it was a real honor to be a part of that book. And like I
For
feel like
sure.
everybody that was in that book too, it's like I'm so proud of like both books. I'm so proud of all of the people in there, even if I don't know them. It's weird. And like it's funny because when we did the book launch night at Bernie's Tavern,
Yeah.
getting to meet a few of them in person finally was amazing because one of them actually hired me to DJ a Mohawk College event because she runs
cool.
the cellar there. Kayla Scrappy. Was
Oh,
it Scrappy Crafts?
Kayla's Scrappy
yeah,
Crafts.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Kayla's
She's such
amazing.
a lovely person. Yeah, such a lovely person.
Yeah.
So and we had fun that night, man. Like we were like I was like getting out from behind the booth and dancing with everybody. Like it was fun. It was super fun. And I got a parking ticket, which sucked.
No.
And she offered for them to pay for it, which was really sweet. But like, yeah, no, but it was nice because it was like finally good to like put names to Instagram handles that I was already following or like, to finally like meet some of these people in person because it's like, holy shit, like you're a real human being. And like, I always love where it's like, oh my God, you're a lot smaller than I imagined. And I'm like, yeah. I'm just Lee.
Yeah.
I'm pretty loud, like online. Like, don't let that fool you.
Nice.
And for anybody asking, I am 4'11". So I always just tell people I'm 5 feet because like just round it up.
Yeah,
sounds
I'm
better.
5'11". I say 6 feet once in a while.
There you go.
6 feet.
Yeah. Nobody knows.
Close enough.
Nobody knows.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I know you got stuff to do, and I don't want to hold you up too long.
Yeah, I should probably make some tacos before I have to photograph this goth night.
Oh, nice.
I am fueled by tacos.
Nice. Is there any events coming up that people can like see your work or dance to your DJing? Or?
Yeah. So I think it's next. Follow me on Instagram at Abominable Egg because I do post that stuff. So I'm going to be
in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll be at the AGH for International Women's Day. Bring your own vinyl because I am playing. We're celebrating female musicians and stuff.
Amazing.
And I have a lot of vinyl, but it would be really nice for you to bring vinyl so that I don't run out of stuff to play, but also like have more genres to add to it because I'm so multi-genre, it could go a lot of different directions. So I really need your help on this one, guys. Please come to the AGH for International Women's Day. I think it's like 7 to 11:30 at night or something, or 7:30 to 11. And it's a great place. It's a beautiful venue. And I love the people there. I love working with them. I've never actually DJ'd there, which is weird.
Wow.
I've only been like an instructor or like done a lecture for like high school students and stuff like that, especially with like graffiti and street art and stuff. Been a vendor at some of their little mini markets and stuff, but they're always so lovely. I'm in there like every Thursday I can handle just to like walk through on their free Thursdays and stuff because sometimes it's on my way home from errands and I'll just like walk through there with a bag of groceries and be like, I've already seen all this stuff, but like it's just nice to be here.
Yeah.
It's such a calming, de-stressing kind of environment. So Hamilton. For sure. And then I'll be at the Paris Beer Co. The following next Sunday because they're doing an International Women's Day brunch. So ladies brunch, we're gonna boogie. We have Fascination Goth Night tonight at the Corktown. Tomorrow night is Risky Business 80s night at the Corktown. What else is coming up? Our next punk rock Flea is May 3rd and 4th at the Cotton Factory. We're doing a big banger of an open house. The whole building's going to be active. So we're going to
Nice.
be in that top floor, the third floor Imperial Room with 60 plus vendors per day. Some of them are coming as far as, I think, Quebec again.
Wow.
We have people coming in from like Buffalo, Rochester, just to come to this show.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, keep that on your calendar. At Punk Rock Flea Market Hamilton is our thing, but like any punk rock flea market in Ontario, add them, go to them, support them. There's so many of them. And hopefully we'll get the Toronto one back online soon. So stay
Nice.
tuned for details on that. And like outside of that, I mean, I'm always at the Electric Diner on and off. Oh, there's Luna to say hi. Oh,
Hey,
and there
Luna.
she goes. And there she goes. um, so yeah, lots coming up. But like, yeah, follow me at Abominable Inc. INK for all the updates. And there's always some going on. So I will always post what's happening in the city.
Do you ever get a day off? You have so much going on
Mondays.
constantly.
Yeah, usually Mondays is my day off where I
Okay.
just try and ignore the world. And this is when
Smart.
it's hard though, because a lot of people think you're open Mondays. So I have to ignore phone calls. Like I'm trying to train myself to just like, nope, voicemail. And then
Nice.
remind them tomorrow when you call tomorrow.
Nice.
Nope, absolutely not. But it's tricky. It's tricky to find time off. So I try and find pockets of time where, especially after like when I do like a big show like the Punk Rock Flea, I take 2 days off, mandatory. Out of office is on, and like
Smart.
so it's like so if my out of office is on, I will get back to you, but it means that I'm trying to get caught up. So
Yeah.
in my own life. Because I still need a life too outside of this.
For
right?
sure.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
it's hard to find that balance when you're doing so many things. So
Yeah, I can imagine.
learning that is an everyday struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Never
it's
ending
fun.
lessons.
It's fun. I don't ever want to quit doing this. So
Good.
I'll keep doing it, and I'll do it to death.
Amazing.
Yeah.
On that, I got nothing left for now, but I'll let you go.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much again. It's so great to meet you.
Oh my
and chat
God,
with you.
this was awesome. I love doing podcasts and I love chatting about stuff. I'm like, obviously I'm a talker, so yeah, give me a subject.
That's good.
Let's do this again.
Yes, please.
Awesome. Thank you.
right.
You. Yeah, and
Talk to you
cheers
soon.
everybody watching and listening, and
Cheers.
yeah, this has been awesome. Like I hope to see you at one of our events, and keep supporting local small business and all the events that are happening in your community, because honestly, we're starting to see attendance dip over the past year. So let's try and keep things affordable, and let's keep it going and keep creatives working, because if we lose creatives, I think we're going to be stuck in the sauce for the rest of our lives. So like, yeah, we need our creatives. So please keep supporting us. Yeah.
Absolutely. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Come on, how cool is she? Seriously. Thanks again, Julie, for sitting down with me and having a good chat. I really appreciate it. Hope to run into you at one of your many events someday soon. Be sure to check the show notes for information on how you can see Julie's work, attend one of her events, and support her. Unfortunately, some of the events she mentioned happened before I could get this episode out, and I apologize for that. But please check her website and social media for upcoming events and other ways you can support her work. I've left links in the show notes where you can find out more, so please go check those out. And thanks again to you for listening. If you like what you hear, please leave a review, a rating, or share, or whatever people do with podcasts. It's all very much appreciated. If you're a maker and would like to be part of the show, please slide into my DM on Instagram. I'm at IamWoodbeard, or shoot me an email at podcast@woodbeard.ca. I'd love to meet you and share your work with people. Hope to see you again next time. Till then, be there for each other and have a good one. Woodbeard Meets Makers is a Woodbeard production. Audio engineering and production by Woodbeard. Editing by Woodbeard. Music by Woodbeard. Awkward laughs and stammering by Woodbeard.